This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Linstead residents angry after man's body left along roadway for hours after crash. Residents of Linstead in St. Catherine are peeved that police took more than 3 hours to remove the body of a man who died in a motor vehicle accident early Saturday morning. The residents said the man and a woman, believed to be his girlfriend, crashed along the roadway in the wee hours of the morning, and the deceased was left there until daylight, causing a buildup of traffic. Police have identified the man as 30-year-old Renil Stair from Victoria District in Linstead, who they said died from injuries he sustained in a motor vehicle accident near Cotton Peace in the parish. The Yuaton police reported that about 2:05 a.m., Stair was driving a 2014 grey Nissan AD wagon when he lost the control of the vehicle, which hit a wall and overturned. Police said he was assisted to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. However, residents of the area claim Stair died on the spot and was left there until daylight. They said it was Stair's girlfriend who was taken to the hospital, but his body was covered with a sheet and left along the roadway, causing early morning traffic to back up until his body was eventually removed. The police report did not state that anyone was in the vehicle with Stair at the time of the accident, but residents said the woman is a well-known party promoter from the area. Efforts to get a response from the Yuaton police proved futile, as several calls to the station number went unanswered. Developer jailed on fraud charges. The proprietor of a startup firm that collected millions of dollars in deposits for a failed housing development has been jailed on fraud-related charges amid fresh complaints about a second residential project. Sparks, the chief executive officer of New Star Homebuyers Limited, was charged last Thursday with obtaining property by false pretense and obtaining credit by fraud based on complaints of 2 depositors, the police confirmed on Friday. According to law enforcement sources, additional charges are likely as police investigators in St. Anne, armed with complaints from other depositors, have already requested an interview with Sparks. The New Star boss surrendered to the Trelawney police last Wednesday and will remain jailed until his first court appearance, which is scheduled for this week. Gordon Evans, the attorney representing Sparks, declined to comment on the allegations when contacted yesterday. At least a dozen people who thought they were purchasing residential lots in the widely advertised Coral Spring housing development in Trelawney have claimed that they are owed a total of nearly $5 million in deposits made to New Star. The legal dilemma for Sparks and his 2-year-old firm was confined solely to the Coral Spring Mountain project until Friday, when one woman came forward with claims that she paid New Star a total of $738,000 between October last year and March this year as part payment for a residential lot in Downs, Manchester. Sparks admitted during a news interview last month that his company collected down payments from about 20 to 25 people for residential lots in the Coral Spring Mountain project late last year. He did not disclose the total deposits collected and acknowledged that the transaction did not come out successful, but said some depositors have been refunded and insisted there was no impropriety. The authorities confirmed with the news that Sparks was not licensed as required under the Real Estate Dealers and Developers Act to operate as a real estate dealer, developer, or salesman. There was also questions about whether he owned a property his company was offering for sale to the public. Antoinette Rivera, who has been waiting months to be refunded the $1.8 million she deposited on 3 lots, is one of the aggrieved customers who lodged a complaint that resulted in the charges laid against the Sparks. Mr. Sparks put me in a lot of debt, so I had no other choice but to seek legal action against him, Rivera said during an interview on Friday. It pains my heart because we are all human beings, but somebody has to take a stand and somebody has to be the example. Rivera reported that since Sparks' arrest, a couple people have contacted her by telephone, urging her to withdraw the complaint against the New Star CEO to allow him to reimburse her and other depositors. But she is adamant that she will not back down unless she is refunded with interest. This thing has been going on for a period of time, and nobody was interested in that. But now that he's locked up, people are calling me, she said. Investigators say there were several red flags which suggested that the proposed Coral Spring Mountain development was in trouble from the outset, even as New Star was collecting thousands of dollars in deposits. Sparks admitted to the news that his company is facing a lawsuit from another firm that has claimed an equitable interest or right to the Coral Spring property. But he insisted that his company acquired the property from the government through one of the various methods allowed in law and had open and undisturbed possession of the lands. A plot of land in the proposed Coral Spring development was being sold from between $1.2 million and $3.2 million, with an option to make a one-time down payment of $355,000, followed by monthly payments of $29,000 until completion, according to documents reviewed by the news. Sparks said the decision to commence advertising was based on the result of research conducted by a team of surveyors hired by his company, which showed that the Coral Spring property was unregistered. He said this was the reason the sale agreements signed by the depositors and perused by the news had no folio and volume numbers, a unique set of digits used to identify a registered property and its legitimate owner. Last December, state and local authorities stepped in and shut down exploratory construction work on the project because New Star did not have a mandatory environmental permit, which is a breach of the Natural Resources Conservation Authority Act. Audit uncovers a financial mess at UDC. Over the 10 years since the Auditor General made a number of recommendations to the Urban Development Corporation to improve efficiency, the entity has implemented only a few, continuing to struggle to collect hundreds of millions of dollars owed to it by other government entities, while racking up losses and cost overruns in its estate management portfolio. This is according to the report of a follow-up audit of the UDC tabled in the House of Representatives on Friday. The UDC also divested 3 properties below market value in contravention of its estate management policy and racked up cost overruns, losses, and additional costs totaling $156.3 million, due mainly to poor planning, lack of adequate monitoring, and the scoping of contracts, Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis reported. The November 2012 audit sought to determine whether the corporation was managing its operations effectively and efficiently to achieve its core business objectives. That audit found significant weaknesses, including several corporate governance failures, as well as financial challenges and internal control deficiencies that impairs the UDC's ability to manage effectively and efficiently the resources under its control. Deficiencies were found in the UDC's management of its investments in subsidiary and joint venture companies. The 2022 audit sought to determine the adequacy, effectiveness, and the timeliness of actions taken by the UDC to correct the reported weaknesses and to assess whether the corporation was cost-effectively optimizing the return on its assets. The Auditor General's Department found that only 6 of the 16 recommendations it had made in the 2012 report were fully implemented, 6 partially implemented, and 4 were not effected at all. Further, Monroe Ellis noted her team had been forced to rely on the unaudited financial statements and other reports in order to conduct a financial assessment of the UDC, as the entity did not have audited financial statements and annual reports for the last 3 years to confirm its financial and operational performance. The $156.39 million in cost overruns applied to a number of properties, including the Jamintel building in downtown Kingston. According to the report, the UDC honored the claims submitted by the seller, National Housing Trust, for insurance, electricity, and security charges due to a delay in handing over possession owing to UDC's failure to meet contracted payments despite the 2 payment extensions. The purchaser of a property at 10 to 12 Harbor Street, downtown Kingston, from the UDC was allowed to determine the sale price and paid less than amount approved by the UDC board. The report outlined that the part of the Ocherius cruise ship pier, 22.01 square meters of land, was transferred at no cost due to the incorrect evaluation and measurement, while there was poor scoping and planning for the removal of squatters at the Forum Hotel complex in Portmore, which resulted in time overrun of 1 year and a cost overrun of $40 million when compared with its assessed relocation cost of $59 million. The Auditor General's Department said that the UDC tried to recover outstanding monies owed to it by initiating legal proceedings from which it obtained a judgment claim for 4 accounts from private tenants totaling $11.1 million and US $43,200. In February this year, the UDC collected net legal fees of $179.58 million from proceedings against the Commissioner of Lands for Property occupied by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The Auditor General said although the UDC had made efforts to improve its financial viability over the review period by seeking to recover rental arrears, the management of receivables remained a challenge with rental arrears as at June this year, reaching more than 120 days and totaling $467.49 million, or 81% of aged receivables. This is compared to arrears amounting to 76% of aged receivables in May 2012. As at March 2022, the government owed the UDC $7.23 billion in outstanding compensation for lands transferred to the National Road Operating and Constructing Company. The transfer is related to a cabinet decision in June 2015 to provide lands for the development of hotels, housing, and other facilities as a condition of the 50-year concession agreement between the government and NROC. Review of UDC records showed that the value of the lands transferred to NROC currently stands at $9.36 billion, for which the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service has provided compensation totaling $2.13 billion, the report said. Further, in May 2021, Cabinet gave its approval for properties owned by Petroleum Corporation of Jamaica to be transferred to the UDC as a further compensation, but to date the properties have not been valued and transferred to the UDC. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.